In my opinion, if your sales team is doing an awesome job, don't butt in. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I think one reason a sales methodology could be important is really for the customer's benefit. So, standardizing how we sell, how we speak to them, so that they're all getting the same experience. Impact to a company doesn't mean attendance. It
Yep.
doesn't necessarily mean knowledge transfer. It means results. It means outcomes. And if we can't prove that, where's our value?
When introducing a new methodology, how do you ensure you get buy-in from both leadership and individual contribution?
So, from my personal experience,
Hello, everyone. This is Michael Ocean, founder and CEO of Self-Management AI. Today, I'm super pumped because I have Michelle Cordes in the call, and she's been in enablement for a very long time, and she's currently the Director of GTC Programs at Polaris. And she's also super active in the revenue enablement community as the New York chapter president at the Revenue Enablement Society, also as the co-chair of the Enablement Squad. So today we're going to talk about a topic that I'm super excited myself to learn how actually Michelle did it in the past. And it's about rolling out sales methodologies and why they're important or maybe not. Michelle, how's it going?
doing really well, Michael. How are you?
Pretty good. Can't complain. And it's always great to see you.
Yes,
Um,
always.
Tell me a little bit, Michelle, about how you actually got into sales. How do you end up in sales?
Yeah. So, long story short, I started in education and learning. So, I was a teaching assistant at an elementary school. And funny story, actually, the school decided they were going to make a purchase of 50 smart boards. So, that board that you can connect to your computer and all of that. They made the purchase, but didn't really have a plan on how to get teachers to use it. And so I kind of had to be their inside salesperson to sell our teachers the idea of using this smartboard. And so, I put together guides, I did one-on-one help and all of that. So really, my introduction into sales and into enablement started way, way back then when I was in the elementary school. And that was, I think, 2011 was
Oh,
when I was
wow.
there. Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
it's been a while.
That's interesting. All right. Look, obviously today we want to chat about, rolling out sales methodologies, but I just wanted to understand, how do companies decide that they actually need one? And do we even need one?
Yeah. It's a great question. So, in my opinion, if your sales team is doing an awesome job, don't butt in. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So I do think that sales methodologies can be very useful, especially when your sales team is not achieving the desired results and outcomes that you're looking for. Um, However, if they are, there's no reason to make changes. Let the sales team do what they need to do if they're doing well already.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense, to be honest. Like, as a former seller, I didn't want to get bogged down by so many changes. Obviously, if something is, working, if, we are actually hitting quotas and overachieving our goals, then what's the reason to do that? But I wanted to understand from your perspective, do we really need methodologies to build a standardization just to, achieve more, or maybe even like easier for managers to um, kind of like walk reps toward this process, especially when they hire new ones?
Yeah, I think one reason a sales methodology could be important uh, is really for the customer's benefit. So, standardizing how we sell, how we speak to them, so that they're all getting the same experience.
Mm,
It's really helpful for a company's brand if each customer is getting the exact same experience with regardless of what seller they're working with. So, in that respect, I do think it is somewhat important to have. There's also, it's an easier way to track how well we're doing in general when we're looking at the sales process, or um, when we're looking at, renewal, retention, expansions, all of that. So, there are definitely some benefits to them. I will say that not all are built equal these different sales methodologies, but most of them are relatively the same. We're all trying to get to the same goal, right? It's
Yep.
just it really depends on the approach. So there are some methodologies that are more geared towards creating pain and identifying pain, where others are about the outcome, and some are more customer focused, others are more product focused. So it really depends on your company and what your overall goal is with your customer.
I love this. And, my question was mostly around like how to, help the internal, team, like the sellers, the managers, but you took it actually in one level higher, something that is more even important. We do all of this. We help our managers, our reps, our end users to help who? The buyers. And it seems
That's right.
like getting a methodology that speaks to our buyers can help with brand identity to presenting our company and our offering the way that the buyer wants to actually hear this messaging. All right, interesting. When introducing a new methodology, how do you ensure you get buy-in from both leadership and individual contribution or contributors?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's something that enablers do struggle with often. So, from my personal experience, we happened to roll out MedPick at a former company that I was with a couple of years ago. And number one, I think it's really important, even before you decide to roll it out, to make sure that everyone who would need to be involved in really making it happen, reinforcing it, all of that needs to be involved in that initial conversation. As far as, you know, here's why we need this. Here's how it's going to help us as a company. Here's how it's going to help you as an individual stakeholder. Let's all do this together. We want to get everybody on board even before we start the rollout process, because if we roll it out before everyone is involved that needs to be involved, you're not going to successfully reinforce that methodology once you're done implementing it. So I think it's really, really important. Over communicate as much as possible. We want to do this. Here's the reason why, and here's how it's going to benefit you the most.
Mhm.
So that for me, that was a really big deal. I made sure to sit down with our CEO at the time and explain to him what sales methodologies were, and why we're choosing this one and how it's going to help the company. And I tried to do that with every stakeholder that was going to be involved in the whole process.
I love that. So you basically get everyone involved regardless of their position. You said, "Hey, you're a CEO, you're a sales manager, you are the rep." But how should we do this when we have a larger sales org? So just imagine we have 200, sellers. Yes, CEO says yes, sales managers are aligned. Should enablement get in front of sales, sales reps and kind of like work with them to understand why it's important to roll out this methodology today, or sales managers should do this?
I would say both, honestly, because as an enablement person, you don't have that group reporting to you. You can't tell
Right.
them you have to do this. But what you can do is you can explain, here's how it's going to benefit you. Nobody's going to do anything unless they know that they're getting something out of it in the end. So,
Right.
what I did was, again, prior to the rollout, I worked with each group, each sales group individually. So we had an SMB team, we had a mid market team, and an enterprise team. And so I met with each of those teams. I introduced them to this concept that we're going to be implementing this. I explained the reason why. Here's how it's going to affect you. Here's what you can expect. So, really planning out exactly what was going to happen over the course of however many weeks or months
Mm.
the implementation would happen. I wanted to prepare them as much as possible in advance. So, in our
Mhm.
case, we did a rollout where we had a combination of live training and self-paced training within a platform, an enablement platform. And so I explained, here's what we're going to be learning, here's what each session is going to be about, etc. I also welcome people to ask questions as well, to
Yep.
make sure that there were no, hesitations or doubts or pushback. There's always going to be pushback, but as
Of
little as
course.
possible is is best. So yeah, definitely over preparing, over communicating.
I love this approach. over preparing and over communicating. Because, like, again, personal experience, I work with companies that literally just send out one sheet. Hey, this is going to be it. This is the date. It's going to be out, confirmed and approved
Mhm.
by the CEO and CRO, and this is it.
Right.
And you're like, am I even
Yeah.
included?
And imagine being the rep and getting that email. It's like, wait, what?
What?
So we don't want that. So yeah, so I try to prepare as much as possible. And then in addition to that, you also have to prep the managers too, right? Because even
Of
though they're
course,
not
right.
selling, they are going to be responsible for the reinforcement of that methodology. So getting them prepared to do that as well was super important.
That was actually my, you know, next follow-up question, and you just mentioned
Mm,
it. Look, sometimes we see resistance, to our change. I mean, everyone, like human beings, like it's
hmm
rare that we're saying, yes, let's change every week. We want to do that. And especially like when it comes to, frontline managers, of course, they're under pressure. Current
hmm
situation, down market, right? We have numbers. We got to hit it. Like
Yep.
coaching sessions turn to pipe review, and just imagine a new initiative like rolling out a new methodology. Well, each manager might have their own, experience and background or methodologies or framework they're using. How do you, really get alignment first, just to make sure that all these managers are aligned? They know you're going to have a unified methodology in place, and also to make sure that they reinforce what you're, teaching their reps, because that's another, I think, challenge if it's not really taken care of early on.
Yeah, I agree. And this is also a very difficult one. So, one of the things that I did is when I met with my frontline managers, I wanted to make sure that I understood their day to day, their coaching sessions that they're already having, kind of what are they doing currently, and then how can I weave the methodology into what they're already doing so that it wasn't such a huge change. I think it's really important that whatever they're currently doing now, we don't want to radically change it so that they're thrown off, so that it feels like, oh, why do I have to do this? This is so different
Mhm.
from what I was already doing. And so, meeting with the frontline managers and talking to them about this methodology, I also strategized with them, how can we implement this into what you're already doing? We also held a separate special session, if you will, for the frontline managers with our trainer that we hired
Okay.
for the sales methodology to come in and kind of work with them to talk through what are you currently doing. Here are some ideas on how we can incorporate this into what you're already doing with your teams. So that I found to be pretty helpful as far as getting them on board. They felt like they were involved in the implementation and it wasn't just happening to them.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That the fact that you feel that you're included, you're
Right,
basically building this program with your enablement team,
right.
definitely makes a huge difference. Do you believe your reps burn leads practicing on client calls? When it comes to giving them one-on-one coaching sessions, you just don't have the bandwidth, so you get rid of them altogether? Or maybe you notice that your team spends a lot of time on non-revenue tasks like taking notes, updating CRM, or drafting emails. These are the exact challenges we solve for other revenue leaders like yourself. With Sell Me the Spend AI Coach, you can offer your reps role-play sessions at scale while automating one-on-one coaching sessions based on your best practices and methodology. Also, AI will take care of all their non-revenue tasks, like note-taking, CRM updates, draft the email for them, so they can focus on constant improvement while you're focusing on one thing and one thing only: revenue growth. If you're interested in learning more about the clients we are working with or use cases that might be beneficial to you, check us out at sellmethespend.ai. Now, I was chatting actually with another guest, and um, she brought up a very interesting idea. Said, look, we look at their current pipeline and where they're struggling, and we bring it, to the table. Enablement is there, the managers are there. So let's just work in 1 2 cases that
Mhm,
need some attention today, and apply what we are bringing on the table as methodology or framework, whatever you want to call it, a new way of doing things. And
mhm.
let a few people that are working on this deal just go out there and test things out, and we see if it's really actually effective before we call it a company-wide rollout. Now, I know in theory, or maybe in practice for someone who's been there, done that, worked perfectly fine. But you have quota for yourself too. So as an enablement team, if again you have to roll this out by the end of Q3, you have to roll this out by end of Q3, or who's to blame, right? This is part of
Mhm.
your tasks. So how should we really go about this? What's the best way to do this? Yes, we want to get the buy-in from the end user and frontline managers, and this could potentially help a lot. But at the same time, we have a timeline. Do we really have enough time to really test things at a smaller scale?
That's a great question. And what we did is we tested throughout the implementation. So we didn't necessarily wait until the training is over and it's, quote unquote, implemented. We did it all throughout. So as
Mm-hmm.
we learned different pieces of the methodology, we immediately started incorporating those into pipeline reviews where we incorporated what we had learned so far with the
Mm-hmm.
methodology. So timeline in that case wasn't as big of a concern. We wanted to make sure we gave it enough time that it sank in and that by the end of it, it almost felt like, oh, this is what we've already been doing this whole time.
Uh-huh.
So we definitely tried to start that literally after day one of training.
I love it. That's pretty much my preferred method too. Whether I'm leading a team or I'm just performing as an individual contributor, because you learn a small piece of it could be about methodology or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You apply it right away. Most probably you fail first few times that you do. Then you come back with some questions and comments. Hey, it doesn't work. Like I did
Yeah.
it. Okay, let's just break it down. Let's sit down and work together while we are walking, towards the end. Okay, that's amazing. Um, when it comes to blending technology and sales processes, I mean, there are a lot of tools out there. And honestly, I would like to consider you as someone who's an early adopter. Like when we started Tell Me the Spam, we were babies. We didn't even know what we were doing. You
Mm-hmm.
contributed a lot. Like we got on calls, you shared insight, you really tried to help us, understand like what's the gap here? What is it that
Mm-hmm.
we are trying to solve and try to solve differently? So I wanted to understand from your perspective, are there any tools or platforms that you yourself have found most useful when it comes to supporting this methodology rollout?
I don't necessarily want to favor one over the other because there are so many out there that
True.
I've used in the past. But I will say any platform that can, number one, help you document that the methodology is being used is really important. So whether that means some sort of conversation intelligence tool, whether that means building something into your CRM, something that can just show that it is being used.
Uh-huh.
There also needs to be something that shows the customer's reaction. So whether or not that's deals are moving faster, whether that means that customers are positively receptive to how they're being sold to. So any type of platform that has that information as well. So that again might be a conversation intelligence tool. It might be another form of like a go to customer platform. So being able to gauge how the customer is receiving the methodology
Uh-huh.
tactics as well and techniques, I think is important too.
That's very important. And I love the fact that you always go back to the customer. So
Yeah.
I've seen it, and again, people have different preferences, and it seems like many enablers are really sharp focused on getting the graduation rate up. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
80% of my reps graduated and know how to use the methodology. How
Right.
about the buyers? How
You have
many
to
of
ask, so what, right? You have to ask, so what? What does that mean? What is the outcome of that, right? So, and this is, this goes into a whole different conversation about enablement impact, right?
Yep,
Because if we can't prove impact to a company doesn't mean attendance. It
yep,
doesn't necessarily mean knowledge transfer. It means results. It means outcomes. And if we can't prove that, where's our value, right? So, I do think that's really
100%.
important to focus on. Mhm.
All right. My last question, and feel free not to answer it because it might be a little bit spicy. What's
Okay.
your most and least favorite methodology of all time?
Oh gosh. Ah, okay. Um, so I'm not going to name just one for either of these things, but I will say certainly because as learned in this interview, I'm very, very customer oriented. So any methodologies that are really truly focused on the customer's needs and what the customer's outcomes are and how we can help them to get to those outcomes, those are the ones that I'm going to favor. I do think that there are other methodologies that work well, such as the ones that identify the pain and really push that pain on. I'm not as big a fan as those specifically, just because, yeah, we get it. They're in pain. Let's fix it. Let's not just like push them until they're like, oh my god, I have to buy this. So yeah, so definitely the ones that are focused on outcomes and focused on customer needs and how can we get them to where they want to get to.
Awesome. Awesome. Again, Michelle, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been awesome chatting with you. Is there any way for people to reach out to you? And can they, and how?
Yes, absolutely. You can find me on linkedin.com/in/Michelle-Curtis. You can also find me if anyone's on the Sales Enablement Collective Slack channel or the Enablement Squad Slack channel. I am on both of those as well. Please feel free to reach out to me, connect with me. I love to talk all things enablement, and also, as a people pleaser, as all of us enablers are, I love to help where I can. So definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to
Awesome.
help in any way. Yeah.
Michelle, thank you very much. It was great meeting you as always, and chat soon.
Thank you so much, Michael. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.